What happens when you don't raise your boys as soldiers? What happens when you don't raise your daughters as wives and mothers? This is the topic of discussion on Common Filth Extra episode 41, available now on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. Only $1 American dollar. Common Filth Radio episode 112 begins now. Somewhere in America, a young white male is masturbating to a picture of Blair White. Somewhere in America, that young white male, in his post-masturbatory haze, says that this tranny he just jerked it to shares a lot of his values. How many YouTube subscribers does that tranny have? We're just going to find out. Here are your heroes of Western civilization, everybody. Islam apologists are cancer, says the man cosplaying as a woman. 175,000 subscribers. 51,000 Twitter followers. These kinds of people criticizing Islam makes a lot of sense, actually. Because Muslims seem to be the only people on the planet who actually enforce a standard. Now, I've said before that being a heretic is a lot better than being godless, which is what we're looking at here. You ever hear the rain? Have you ever seen the rain? Have you ever heard the rain? Because that's what it's been doing all day. I don't know, I don't feel like yelling and screaming right now. I'm more blustering. You get in those moods. You really do. Because a couple weeks ago I realized that I'm yelling at dead bodies. Yelling at an audience that either doesn't know I exist or doesn't want to listen to me. That audience of, again, young white males who think that, just as long as you say the right things about Islam and the presidential election, you have my values. You have the same values as somebody who cuts their dick off and turns it inside out, apparently. I don't get it. I really don't. I thought when people die, they just die. I remember a long time ago, I went to my great-grandfather's funeral, and it was open casket, saw his dead body there. But he was more alive there than what I'm seeing now. At his funeral, my great-grandfather was more alive than what I see in people now who are breathing, talking, blinking. In old war movies, there's the trope where you see the soldier in their bunker, in their tent, in their barracks, whatever you call it. And they'll have a picture. They'll have models, pinup models, or they'll have a small photograph that they carry with them of their girl back home to remind them what they are fighting for. And I'm sure there were soldiers who carried around pictures of women who either represented their ideal woman or their actual woman, the one that belonged to them back home. Again, as a reminder of what they're fighting for. Real women, not ones with penises or inverted penises. Why do men putting their lives on the line? And in hell on earth, they're living hell on earth in war. Why do they remind themselves? Because women, actual women, they are the vessels of the future. They are the vessel in which life is grown and nurtured, where the future begins. Does anybody see it this way? Does everyone just see marriage as your big day where everybody pays attention to you? It's taken me a while, but you start to learn what the purpose of things are. Men, women, marriage, nations, society. Our parents had no idea of this themselves. They just did it just to do it, just to get people to shut up about it, basically. But now we don't even know what men and women are. So how can we know what marriage is? Hell, we didn't know what it was when we knew what men and women were. Unfortunately, our parents, they just saw each other as sex objects. It's biologically compatible, which is fine. It's good that they recognize that compatibility. It's not good that they didn't exercise restraint when putting that compatibility into practice. But now the kids they've grown up. They're old enough to click computer buttons And what do they click on? They click the follow button on Twitter tranny profiles. They click the subscribe button on gay and trans YouTube channels. This is the voice of their generation. Our generation. It's who we choose to listen to. Because they're a deviant with similar political opinions as you. It's insane. I think we know it because we're not going to fight for it. We know it's the death of everything. We know the way what transsexuals represent, yet we click that subscribe button 175,000 times collectively, or more if you look at the gay YouTubers, which we've talked about before. Somebody sent me an email like this gay god guy or somebody else. Millions of subscribers on YouTube, millions of young people who use these videos as a guide for their own life, and they do. They're always looking over their shoulder, seeing what the next guy's doing. And what is the next guy doing? He's going on Grindr, sodomizing or getting sodomized by guys who are married to women. And we think that's cool. I'm not making this up. I'd like to thank somebody for reminding me of this. Sensu Nolnu on Twitter. He says, or she, who knows. And the pausing of the West continues, as in pause mine egg hole HIV positive, you already know. Every time I turn around, you're proven right. No wonder Russia is laughing, is the subtweet there. It says, and this is something I might have read back in the day, but I forgot about it, unfortunately. But thank you for reminding me. It's from the Daily Mail. Transgender military personnel from 18 countries where open service is allowed gather to discuss whether U.S. military could lift a ban. Transgender military personnel from 18 countries. Transgender military personnel from 18 countries. Okay, which 18 countries, though? That's what I would like to know. Come on, where are you? Transgender Major Donna Harding of the Australian Army Nursing Corps speaks alongside Sergeant Lucy Jordan Left of the Royal New Zealand Air Force. So there's 2 of the 18 English-speaking white nations. Okay, I got a link to this. Okay, like 6 out of the 18 I've seen so far are some kind of white. Alright, the point is this. A lot of people are afraid that World War III is going to start pretty soon. I think it was Davis Arini who predicted that in 2018 we would have World War III. Now, just how close that is, it's chilling to think about. How chilling that prediction is. And it's looking like if it's going to happen, the major players will be Russia and the U.S. But I'd argue here that the U.S. has already fired the first shot. In the form of sodomitic propaganda from Fuck Hate, the organization Fuck Hate, spreading its transsexual and homo demons all around the world. You see, back in during the Winter Olympics in 2014, Fuck Hate threatened to send a bunch of coloring books, which I'm going to bring up now. From the Huffington Post, Fuck Hate to mail 10,000 coloring books to Russian children during Olympics. And here's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy who looks to be about, 5 or 6, with a coloring book that says, Misha and his moms go to the Olympics. I know the pattern of behavior is there for them to do this, but they didn't kidnap this kid. A white woman had to volunteer her child to pose in this picture, holding a coloring book that says, Misha and his moms go to the Olympics. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender clothing and accessory company Fuck Hate is launching a new campaign that will send 10,000 Russian children pro-gay coloring books during the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics. Luke Montgomery, founder of FuckHate.com, told the Huffington Post that the inspiration for the campaign came from Russian officials seizing fuck-hate clothing from several Russian customers under the country's anti-gay propaganda law. Looks like the lingering effects of the Mongolian invasion is paying dividends, because I don't see any other Europeans doing this. Russia's made it a crime for any pro-gay words to be spoken, and that law is about to be broken, Montgomery said. The message of this coloring book is to let kids in Russia know that being gay is normal. Beating and imprisoning people just for being out of the closet or arresting them for simply saying that it's okay if someone in their family is gay is an attack on human rights and a trashing of the Olympic spirit. He went on to note, we're going to be breaking this homophobic law and there's nothing the government can do to stop it. So, here you have it. Plain as day. Simple as it could possibly be. America's already fired its first shots at Russia. America, Western, Northern Europe, Australia, New Zealand deserves to be vaporized with a mushroom cloud. Because we aid and abet this enemy from within. The act of the sodomite enjoys a very esteemed position in America, in the Anglosphere in general, in Western Europe and Northern Europe, because we sympathize with it. We sympathize with the worldview. It fits within my theory. Our attitude towards the sodomite and the transsexual fits within my theory that we're already dead. Why else would we protect these people so fervently? People have lost jobs in the West opposing whatever they do. People have gone to jail for it. The reason why the sodomite is so hostile to white nations like Russia is because they refuse to die. They refuse to die as the sodomite has already died. And the sodomite can't stand it. The sodomite wants to bring everybody else down with them. Compare this to how certain groups in other white nations view non-white nations and non-white populations. White birth rates are dangerously low. Non-white birth rates, not so much. So just by virtue of their expansion, the expansion of their own families, the families of non-white people, so by virtue of their expansion, well, they're going to spread out, aren't they? And we're telling them, stop, don't do it. Quit it. We want them to behave like us. We want them to behave like dead people. And many of them do, sure. Many of them look at Whitey's death and say, yeah, I want some of that. And so they get jobs writing for Huffington Post and Vice and so on. They take a bite of the forbidden Japheth fruit. Western nations are unique in their positioning. We're the only people who choose leaders that promote sodomy and transsexualism as an unequivocal moral good, as something that you cannot criticize no matter what. And you know what? Because of the influence we have, some number of non-Western people are brought into that deathly fold. Why do we want to start nuclear war with Russia? It's because they don't want to die like we're dying. That's it. We want to bring them down with us, just like we want to bring everybody down with us. Just like the sodomite wants to bring everybody down with them into the grave. They're already 6 feet down there. We're like 5 and 11 inches. That's what we are. That's where we are. They want to nuke Russia because they're the most vocal, the most powerful voice against death. And others are following suit. For example, from tempo.co. Minister, LGBT movement more dangerous than nuclear warfare, from Jakarta. Indonesia's defense minister, Ramazard Rayakudu, has labeled the emergence of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered movement in Indonesia as a form of proxy war to subtly undermine the sovereignty of a state without the need to deploy a military force. He is 100% correct. Far more eloquent than I could put it. He understands that the enemy from within is stronger than the enemy without. And they are an enemy. It starts from within and then it works its way out. Look at what fuck hate. Look at what we allowed fuck hate to do, which is an American institution. They have a limited liability corporation set up. They are under our protection. And we allow them to exist. We allow them to send 10,000 pro-sodomite coloring books to Russia. He says, I wrote about the subject 15 years ago. This is a kind of modern warfare, said Rayakudu at the Defense Ministry's building on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016. It's the cheapest kind of war there is. According to Rayakudu, the LGBT agenda is a latent threat to Indonesia's sovereignty, as it forces Indonesia to deal with states who support the LGBT agenda under the guise of human rights observance. Rayakudu continued that the state needs to be more cautious in reacting to the demands of the LGBT communities for equality before the law. So that's really interesting because, yeah, it is used as a bludgeon, and look who's doing it. Isn't it interesting how the most pro-homo places are the most internationalist pieces of shit places you could possibly imagine? Funny how that works. You know, this whole election cycle, we've been hearing about the elites, the decadence of the elites. Except it's all about greed. It's just a continuation of the Occupy Wall Street bullshit. Proles are greedy fucks too. They don't care that the fucking elites are greedy. They just want it for themselves. Which is why the sodomites in America and in the West in general are doing jumping jacks over America's election right now. Because there's a very populist undertone running throughout it. And yet, and just like how I said, the people are always wrong. Didn't I say that? Back in the beginning, the people are always wrong. Like, oh, let's be populist. Let's rail against the greed of the elites. Oh, they take our jobs and ship them out. Which even if you had a job, you wouldn't know what to do with it. So what else is the matter here? What else is the matter with the elites? Oh, right. They're all a bunch of fucking butt fuckers. That's what they are. Yeah, you're fine with that. The proles are just fine with that. Sodomy is the epitome of 1% debauchery. Yeah, we don't have a problem with that. Again, we miss the point entirely. But he says, the Indonesia's defense minister, says it's dangerous as we can't see who our foes are, but out of the blue everyone is brainwashed. Now the LGBT community is demanding more freedom. It really is a threat, said the former chief of staff for the Indonesian Armed Forces. In a proxy war, another state might have occupied the minds of a nation without anyone realizing it, continued Rayakudu. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. To any of my Indonesian listeners, I do apologize, but I make videos for Serbian and Indonesian people. Indonesian people are the latest addition to that list of people I make videos for. In a nuclear war, if a bomb is dropped over Jakarta, Semarang will not be affected, but in a proxy war, everything we know could disappear in an instant. It's dangerous. Rayakudu added that modern warfare needs no weaponry, as it is an ideology-based warfare, like the one we're talking about earlier with fuck hate and Russia. That's an act of war. You're poisoning the minds of a nation that isn't even your own. That's warfare. This sort of brainwashing is dangerous as it skews the mind of our nation away from our base ideology, he said. This is a very intelligent man, because everything he said is 100% true, 1000% true. Indonesia's very, very lucky to have a man like this in a position of power. Do we have any men like this? Do we? No, we don't. We have a dipshit who wants to protect our LGBTQ community. You're protecting a disease that is rotting you from the inside. Great idea. Well, it's a disease that most of us want. Again, 63% of people here in America think it's A-okay. Just fine. It's an okay way to be. It's more than okay. As I've seen girls posting on their blogs about how they would think it would be so cute if their kid turned out to be a sodomite. Oh, it's hard to... They say that they would try to set them up with all the other gay kids they know. And you're gonna... And somebody out there is gonna say this guy's wrong? That this isn't more dangerous than nuclear war? We're gonna say that women who actually have their children and don't abort them, who still kill them regardless of... effectively... We're going to say that we have legions of women like this. After all, how many models are there in the fucking fuck hate videos and pictures and promotional materials? Again, the kid holding the Misha and his mom's go to the Olympics fuck hate coloring book. White kid, blonde hair, blue eye. With a mother and father who volunteered him up for it. I'm not afraid of nuclear war. I understand that I am, like Lot, sojourning in Sodom. In fact, I have permanent residence here. Whatever happens to me, happens to me. And it's entirely earned on my behalf because I did nothing to stop it. I've been doing this for a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. And all of time, I am a blink of an eye. I didn't do enough. But I hope that when the time comes for Russia, they'll make a stand and they'll continue to make a stand for what is right against what is wrong. I welcome a holy Russian empire. I know that these white nationalist homos like to think that, the future will look like hordes of adolescent warriors in rainbow thongs, but again, they don't have women to fight for. They don't look at women and see the future. They don't look at a woman and see, yeah, that's something. As crappy as my life may be, if she could have something good, then, you know what, I did something right. And to reinstall that connection between man and woman, to give men something to fight for, to give women a hope for the future, because they know they have somebody who will fight on their behalf, somebody who will fight just for them. It's gonna take a hell of a lot more than marking a ballot. It's gonna take a hell of a lot more than political palliatives. There exists a poll I like to talk about a lot, I like to cite a lot. It was done by YouGov regarding the sodomitic proclivities of British youth, saying that half of them are sodomites. We might understand why now, if this research turns out to be true. From express.co.uk. Shock findings reveal 1 in every 14 adults was sexually abused as a child. As we know, all sodomites, that's how they got their start. 1 in every 14 adults in England and Wales was sexually abused as a child, according to the first research of its kind. Some 11% of women and 3% of men, an average of 7%, said they were sexually assaulted during their childhood, according to the Crime Survey for England and Wales. The findings of the annual survey also suggested that 567,000 females aged between 16 and 59 and 102,000 males in the same age bracket suffered sexual assault by rape or penetration as minors. Now, men are less likely to report sexual crimes if they are the victim. So, the fact that there are, 3% of men admitted to it, there's a lot more than that. There's definitely a lot more than that. If I'm getting the details here right, when we read that article about the gay rape epidemic in the American military, a lot of it goes unreported. It's just what happens. So, in the British Isles, at least, you have A whole generation of youngsters emulating rape victims. They think they're so cool. Yeah, I read a book recently about a guy's experience in a band he played in. He's one of 5 members. And towards the end of the book, he talks about, he's just sharing stories when he's on the road, when he's recording with them. And there's one story he told about how one of the guys, like they're all together in the same room, and he asks, how many of you had a homosexual experience? These are all British guys, English guys. 3 out of 5 of them said, yeah, they did. What the fuck is wrong with people who live on islands? Let's just put it like that. You know what? Not people on islands, Aryans and honorary Aryans that live on islands. As you know, the Japanese have produced some pretty fucked up stuff like that tentacle rape painting back in the 1800s. We all know about that one, The Fisherman's Wife or whatever it's called. What the fuck is wrong with you people? And this is the culture that produced the tongue that I am cursed with. The language I speak, but I will use every word against them. Because the tongue can be overcome, the mind can't. You can change your thinking. And our thinking needs to be changed. This is what we have here in the West. What do they have there in Russia? People that lived through communism. People who know how terrible it was. We're living through it the same right now. Except we don't know it. It's not economic communism, it's cultural communism. It's been far more destructive because, like, the hits you don't see are worse. The blows you take, the damage you take that you don't see is worse. It always is. It's not the punch you see that knocks you out, it's the punch you don't see. We don't see that having the constitution of neurotic fuckstains who believe in nothing but the orgasm is a bad way to be because it leaves you weak, it leaves you defenseless. Transsexual military leaders, a population under their care that cares about nothing but jerking each other off. There's a song by the Kinks called 8 Man. There's a line in it that says, I don't feel safe in this world no more. I don't want to die in a nuclear war. I don't prefer going by way of nuclear blast either, but I'm not afraid. I live among the dead. Death doesn't scare me anymore. I know what it looks like. I know how to deal with it. I know how to argue against it. Which is what I do on a daily basis. But I don't feel much like yelling right now. Like I said, you get in these moods. You do. If you want to hear what the dead sound like, listen to NPR. That's what I've been doing a lot of lately. You can tell most of the people who are on NPR, they belong to a dying tribe. Like me. A couple of examples that stood out to me. One was a news break saying the subject of it was closing the gender gap in alcohol use. I'm not kidding you. They cited a study done in Finland saying that men have always been the primary alcohol consumers. You see this across societies that are not Finland, sure. And they're saying that, and they also went out of their way to say problem drinkers. There's a category for problem drinkers, and men always make up most of what would qualify as a problem drinker, which is just a nice way of saying alcoholic. But they're saying almost gleefully that women are closing the gap as both drinkers and problem drinkers, as alcoholics, with men. I'm sure Finland is a society that has achieved a high level of gender equality, and the women are miserable. The men are beta, the men are spineless, or the men are burning in their lust for one another, and as a result, the women are miserable. They zeroed in on Finland specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if this were the case in other northern or Western European nations. Where gender equality, equality of all sorts, marriage equality. What fucking absurd is that? Yes, the man and woman. Yes, they're bound together in marriage. Yeah, there you go. They have their part to uphold. Man has to do his part, woman has to do her part. The rules are don't fuck around. But then we who invented the open marriage, by the way, as we know it now? Just out of curiosity. Open marriage. A marriage or relationship in which both partners agree that they may have sexual relations with others. And then, origins of the term remain obscure from Wikipedia. Researchers in the 1960s used the term open marriage to describe individual freedom in choosing marriage partners. A closed marriage said individuals had to marry someone based on social conventions and prescriptions. Open marriage meant individuals could choose to marry someone based on personal preferences. Okay, this was in the 60s. Nina O'Neill and George O'Neill changed the meaning of the term in 1972 publication of their book Open Marriage, which sold over 1.5 million copies. The O'Neills conceived open marriage as one in which each partner has room for personal growth and can develop outside friendships. Most chapters in the book dealt with non-controversial approaches to revitalizing marriage in areas of trust, role flexibility, communication, identity, and equality. What else? Chapter 16, entitled Love Without Jealousy, devoted 20 pages to the proposition that an open marriage could include some forms of sexuality with other partners. There you have it. There you have it, everybody. 1972. Very close to the mushroom cloud, the radiation, that nuclear blast that was the sexual revolution. Let's see O'Neill's surname here. Languages: Gaelic. Region of origin: Ireland. Put that on the scoreboard, put it in the record books. That is a European invention. Much like motion picture pornography and pretty much anything else that is poisoning our well. Backtracking now, that NPR news break about closing the gender gap in alcohol abuse. Let's make everybody as miserable as possible. Let's make women as repulsive as possible so that men have nothing to fight for anymore. Fantastic. Great. It's the future we chose for ourselves. Do you remember the old saying? Don't call it a grave, it's the future you chose. Am I the only one who still holds that in his heart, in his mind? Or have we completely abdicated any semblance of personal accountability? We love allowing people to portray our women as repulsive, don't we? Don't we? We do. Take, for example, this. I was sitting in the movie theater, and you know how they have the advertisements before the movie starts. I was sitting there, I was watching the screen, I was watching the ads go by. One came on the screen. Shine through the projector onto the screen for a Lane Bryant. It was a Lane Bryant advertisement, which, if you don't know, is, I guess, a line of clothing for plus-sized women. And here are all these chicks with their guts hanging out, with all their gross bodies hanging out. They're in very little clothing, and they're all talking like gay men. Like, slay. I was like, this is it. This is another symptom of the sodomite taking root in your culture. They love to portray women in the least appealing way possible. Gee, why could that be? Ew, girls are icky. They have cooties. Wasn't Sex in the City that fine piece of American culture? Wasn't that conjured up by a homosexual? By a sodomite? I think it was. And for the women, it's a good trade-off, because homosexuals, a sodomite, is the only person that can make the modern woman look chaste by comparison, so they don't mind it too much. And we let it all happen. We let these people around women. It's insane. What do their gay BFFs say to them? Oh, eat what you want. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Let's go to Sunday brunch. They have all-you-can-eat cheesecake and mimosas. Let the rain come down. Wash it all away. r/common filth on Reddit. Question and comment thread. Participate if you'd like. There's a thread up here every week that I read in full most weeks. I do my best. The other day I got into an argument with a sodomite ally that ended with her saying that homophobes like me would be viewed in the same light as the 1960s white supremacists in future history books. Is it true, CF? Will people like us soon be getting beaten in the streets, incarcerated, and forced to secretly assemble into FBI honeypots? I'm only half joking. This shit is scary to think about. Well, look, we allow them. We allow them to have power. We say, oh, I don't care I don't care what you do, as long as you are just in the bedroom, it never stays there. What grows in the darkness, whatever grows there, it becomes too large to contain. And that's what we have now. And we still say to ourselves, it's just, as long as they keep it to themselves. Well, guess what? They haven't. They never will. They never have. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. But the reply here says, why should you be afraid? If you happen to end up in heaven, imagine what the conversation would be like. I'm Bartholomew. I got skinned alive for preaching the gospel to pagans. What happened to you? Oh, they said mean things about me on Reddit. Heaven is filled with people who are beheaded, boiled alive, stoned to death, often by people who guarded their degeneracy with the force of governmental apparatus. We're well on our way there. Because they would not renounce Jesus Christ, nor offer incense to false gods. Only heroes go to heaven. The cowards go to hell with the sodomites, where they are raped for all eternity by the demons they so love. I have nothing to add there. Well put. They say if a while back I made a thread about an Abraxian pedo Satanist white nationalist that thinks he becomes God incarnated through raping kids. I'm here again to share the shit I've uncovered. First the main part. He tells his sick, twisted story. You should read all of it. Boy wiki, are you fucking kidding me? archive.fo / uppercase W, uppercase M, lowercase c, uppercase x, uppercase b. From Norway. This is the boy wiki that has something called boy love news, and the user, Meko. The life story narrative provided below is much incomplete, and the most insignificant elements are still lacking from it. I facilitate, however, between finishing it or removing it. I'm not really motivated towards writing an autobiography. Holotropic homosexuality. His name is Halvor, nationality Norwegian. He lives in Oslo, Norway. He is 52 years old. His age of attraction is 13 to 17. I'm not reading this. And I referenced to that queer James J. O'Mara that everybody likes, that everybody thinks does a lot for them. I don't get why. What is with white nationalism and attracting homosexuals? I know why, but nobody else will say it. It's because European nations are stupid. Look at the age of consent all around Europe. Pretty fucking low. And of course you attract queers like this because queers love nothing more than little boys. That's what it is. So I'll continue reading your comment. Who is this guy? Well, it's this guy. And it's like some balding, schlubby, old queer who looks like he's dying of AIDS. Photos from his Facebook. If you scroll down a little bit, he made a very strange blog post. Standard requirements for superior boy homo sex videos. I'm not clicking on that. He is here describing how he thinks the best abuse of children in front of a camera should be. This is demonic, fucking insane. Well, he does a lot for our movement. He's a white nationalist. He does a lot for our movement. Quit purity spiraling. As long as he's white, it's okay. He is here describing how he thinks the best of you. Okay, read that. This is YouTube. If you look at his uploads, you see he uploads borderline pedo shit there. Again, not clicking on it. I clicked on the archive link because I didn't know what it was. He has a playlist entitled Boyhood, where a lot of disturbing shit is listed. Also, tons of fucked up liked videos. He's also been a leader of the Norwegian Heathen Society. Big shock, right? One of the videos he liked was of a 13-year-old boy defending pedophiles. in itself insane beyond comprehension. And here he sure has a thing for the people of his own tribe, the people he is supposed to care about. What a freak. Yeah, white nationalism, I wouldn't be shocked if half of it is just pure fetishism, and the politics are just a means of legitimizing that fetish, or providing plausible deniability for their abominable impulses. He also follows the pro-sodomite alt-right people on Twitter like Taylor and Spencer. Here's a photo album of his life by him, tracing his shit. I might update this later, digging through as I write this. Adolf Hitler should have won the war. You know, it's interesting. I was listening to Michael Savage, and he's talking about what he calls the Eddies. The white working class people who fought the world wars, who beat Hitler. And I understand why he's saying this. He's saying like, oh, you could do it. Eddie had kids. What he doesn't understand is that Eddie had kids and they're all transsexual cam whores. Eddie had kids, he didn't fucking care to raise them. Now, I understand why he's giving lip service to the white working class blue collars, is because that's what makes up most of his audience. All right, if he really peels back the layers and find out what Eddie's descendants really are, well, he wouldn't have such nice things to say about them. This is fucking insane. We're a cursed people. The world will be better off without us if this is what we're going to be like, if this is what we're going to tolerate in our midst. And I'm not backing down from that. It's true. The world is better off without child rapists. The world is better off without people who rationalize debauchery and depravity through political means, through ideological means. Our forefathers fought 2 world wars. They fought to keep us free to be, well, rapists, child rapists, and molestation victims. That's what they fought for. The world wars were just the white man's last hissy fit. Spasms of a dying person. Death throes. We're just the entropy. Again, you could just dismiss this as just some lone freak, but these lone freaks are running your pro-white meta-political movements. They sympathize with people like this because they write 2,000-word essays about how cool white people are, which apparently qualifies as helping. Some shit that only like 200 people will ever read. Hey, CF, I posted one of these threads a few weeks back in episode 107 talking about how I'm back in school again in sociology, slowly chipping away at my sanity. As an update for that class, I've stopped even bothering to read the material. I already know what exactly what they want to hear, much like what the guy who replied to that comment said. I've done a lot of thinking over the past few weeks. I've come to the realization that 2016 has been a very developmental year for me. What I mean by that is, although I absolutely loathe the liberal hippie sociologist horseshit I'm currently wading through, I'm glad I'm having the experience because of it, along with other progressive society things. The campus reform article about Brown dispensing tampons in men's rooms from episode 108 has shown exactly what I don't want to be. A rainbow-laden, spineless, doughy coward that shrieks broken pronouns with a love is love sign in one hand and an AIDS-infested cock in another. Since then, I've been exercising and eating healthier. It's not only a physical development either. I've also been coming back in touch spiritually. I didn't really care much for religion or church for a long time, but looking at the state of the world and where it's heading at an alarming speed, I'm seeing that you just can't put your faith in humanity. It will let you down every time without fail. Sure, I've heard that phrase before, both from your videos and others, but it never really meant anything to me until I started paying attention. Yeah, they're just words until you back them up with experience. Which I'm beginning to understand that people's brains are maldeveloped in that their brains cannot perceive experience, they cannot retain it. So that's why a lot of what I say falls on deaf ears. A lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about. That you can't put your faith in man, you can't count on man to do good. Usually when man does good, it's an accident. It's a complete accident. By the grace of God, is it good? And I want to thank you for that, CF. When you show us some of the most absolutely revolting behavior people engage in, you show us a mess of examples that faith in man is foolish. They don't want to save themselves. They've got an egg hole that needs pausing. Yeah. And this is another thing that people don't understand. They watch the Tumblristas videos and think that this is just a fringe thing done by just a couple of bloggers out there. I couldn't have done the 73 episodes I've done of that show, plus the 20 plus episodes I've done in Raw, in the Tumblristas Raw collections. I couldn't do that if this didn't achieve a level of mainstream acceptance. If whatever I'm talking about in these videos, whatever the subjects may be, I couldn't talk about them if they weren't mainstream. Another thing that people don't understand is that they think I'm uncovering some hidden deep things. Lately, like for the last, I don't know, I've been mostly reading the news, stuff published on websites that have a .com address. Things you could easily find in a Google search. It's not esoteric, hidden, occult knowledge that I'm uncovering here. That's what we don't understand. Not everything is. And the answers are usually the tried and true, not, the hidden secret to life. Continuing, the purpose of this comment is to both thank you for helping me getting my bearings and to ask you to keep my niece in your prayers. She's 4 years old and living in a family unit consisting of 2 mothers who frequently hang out with their sodomite buddies. She'll start kindergarten next fall, and the education system is only going to make it harder on her to come out normal on the other side. She has no idea what she's walking into, and I feel truly sorry for her. So please remember to keep her in your prayers. She's going to need it. Well, prayers for her and millstones for your family for enabling this. Hello, CF. I also come from the Green Inferno, Brazil. With a brief question. What is the limit of our human forgiveness? More precisely, where do we as God-fearing people draw the line? Is any past action forgivable as long as the offender repents? What about Christ's limits for accepting, if any? I ask this because recently a poster told you about a story about how his life was total degeneration, complete with shoving dildos up his ass. That was very disgusting and sick. Well, it's contingent. It's all contingent upon repentance. You will not reap the benefits of forgiveness if you do not repent. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. The reply here says, Christ's forgiveness is limitless, but true forgiveness can occur only upon true repentance, a true turning of your life around. Not just a lip service of, I'm sorry. It's hard to change your life, but it is possible if you're willing to leave your comforts. If God forgave you without your real repentance, how is that real forgiveness? Who benefits from it? In fact, this forgiveness is forced because true forgiveness comes from real love, which is not a wishy-washy emotion, but a concrete action that requires real sacrifices. If this act of love is forced upon people, how is this different from rape? Many people reject Christ because they saw his death on the cross as a forced love and unwanted act of sacrifice thrust upon them, which repulses them because they grew up shameless and thinking themselves without sin, though they live rotten lives. Does that describe 9 out of 10 whiteys? Yeah, it does. What would have Christ died for it if everyone has no sins, if everyone is shameless and without conscience? And so they would look at Christ and those who look upon the man on the cross as fools for rejecting the debauchery and hellbound life that revolves around seeking an orgasm, a chemical reaction in the brain, a pleasure to be addicted on. Thank you for that. Second good comment from you. No forgiveness without repentance. None. There has to come a point where it's over. There are no more chances. You have a life full of chances. That's it. Hey, Common, we was moralist Filth. How am I supposed to treat my homophile/sodomite acquaintances and coworkers now that I know the threat they are for society? I'm still forced to endure them for 2 more months. Should I start ignoring them or keep pretending there's nothing wrong with them? What if my mostly liberal family, friends, and coworkers start seeing me as a homophobic bigot? I don't know how to handle them anymore. Please respond and good luck to us all, brother. Reply. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Show them the respect they deserve as coworkers in a professional setting, but do not help to enable their lifestyle. Minister to them without relent as you do, provided that you don't work for a liberal company that will fire you for doing so. Well, love here is setting people on the right path. Now, hate here and the hateful thing to do, and not love's the nearest thing to hate, so that's a bad word. The amoral thing to do here is to say, yeah, you're right. That's wrong. That's not setting them on the right path. Now, you could say some one sentence, offhanded thing that would keep them at bay. They're going on about their pro-pedophile shit, and you'd say, fuck you, or something to that effect. Not those exact words, but to that effect. They're walking abominations. You're sojourning in Sodom just like I am. Just like we all are. And there's nothing that you can say, or else they'll deal with you worse for judging. So I don't know, dude. I really don't know. I can tell you my views on corporate warfare, how the corporation is an extension of the state, and it is. And, they need to be treated as such. But, I'm not telling you to take that matter into your own hands. I'm not. You got a life to live, I understand. Greetings, Father Filth, avid listener since episode 47, first time commenting. Well, thank you for your longevity and loyalty. I was in a conversation a few days ago with some of the folks from the church that I used to attend. We got onto the topic of homosexuality. I couldn't help but grin to myself as the word faggots played it back in my head a few times to the tune of your voice. Anyway, one of the gentlemen in the conversation told me about how a young teen at their youth outreach program, Wednesday church for teenagers, etc., got very upset with the youth pastor and stormed out because he started to preach about sodomites. They mentioned that as he left, he just kept shouting, "God loves everybody. If he didn't want gay people, he wouldn't make them gay." I'd like your input on this. Why do lukewarm Christian sodomites adamantly believe that, well, they're not Christians if they're sodomites? Alright, the first commandment is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Sodomy is their god. They're seeking to legitimize their sodomy with something that already exists, something that is already legitimate. That's the only reason they're using any religion. They already have one. People don't see it that way, so they need the church or the state to back that up for them. The state will, some churches will, but not everyone, which is why the church is the last stand. As many retarded Christians as there are, the only people who are right on everything are Christians. I don't see any atheists or pagans that are wholly accurate in their assessments of the world we live in. It just doesn't happen. Anything they're right about is accidental as far as I'm concerned. I'd like your input on this. Why do lukewarm Christian sodomites adamantly believe that God has imbued them with the desire to do that which is inconvenient? Why do they insist that they should still be allowed to attend church and be a part of a flock when they just go home right after to make ass babies? I do not understand, CF. I just don't get it. Well, they want to poison that which is decent, that which is good. That's the only reason they're in it. They want to bring everybody else down with them as they have been brought down by their own accord. They're 6 feet in the grave. They want people down there with them. They want company. They want company in their death. They can't stand it that other people are living life. They hate people who have the light of God in them, which is why they poison these spheres of influence with their presence. They don't want to be alone in their abominations. They don't want to be alone in their sin. They don't want to be alone in their death. And some people will happily go down there with them. Again, it's a choice. God does love everybody, which is a desire to see them do right. That's what love is. And unfortunately, we are all poisoned with Anglo minds and tongues that see all the words for different types of affection. We just say, love. Love is love, bruv. We think love is just an infatuation. I think love is just tingly feelings. I think love is butterflies. Love is a desire to see something do right. And that's what we don't understand, and I doubt we ever will. Reply. I like this reply. They're attempting to rationalize their worldly idea of born this way with their belief in a moralizing creator. I'm a faggot, and I was told that I was born this way. God created me, therefore God made me gay. And it totally wasn't brought on by my own hubris through my God-given free will. Scripture be damned. It's incredibly stupid. Well put. God helps you. It is I, the Frenchiest fry. Last episode, you seemed angry when the doctor said it would be unethical to castrate pedophiles. As a medical student, I have to both agree and disagree. But other than that, show off the darker side of modern medicine, quote-unquote medicine, emphasis yours. Here's a Hippocratic physician's medical oath, as it was written the first time thousands of years ago. I swear by Apollo the healer, by all these gods, by all the gods and goddesses, by making them my witnesses, that I will carry out according to my ability and judgment this oath and this indenture. To hold my teacher in this art equal to my own parents, to make him partner in my livelihood. When he is in need of money, to share mine with him, to consider his family as my own brothers, and to teach them this art. If they want to learn it without fee or indenture, to impart precept, oral instruction, and all other instruction to my own sons, the sons of my teacher, and to indentured pupils who have taken the physician's oath, but to nobody else. I'll use treatment to help the sick according to my ability and judgment, but never with the view to injure and to injury and wrongdoing. Neither will I administer a poison to anybody when asked to do so. Nor will I suggest such a course. Similarly, I will not give to a woman a pessary to cause abortion, but I'll keep pure and holy both my life and my art. I will not use the knife, not even verily, on sufferers from stone, but I will give place to such as are craftsmen therein. Into whatsoever houses I enter, I will enter to help the sick, and I will abstain from all intentional wrongdoing and harm, especially from abusing the bodies of man or woman, bond or free. And whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, as well as outside my profession in my intercourse with men, if it be what should not be published abroad, I will never divulge, holding such things to be holy secrets. Now, if I carry out this oath and break it not, I may gain forever reputation among all men for my life and for my art. But if I transgress it and forswear myself, may the opposite befall me. And here is the same oath after countless of revisions by ethical committees during the 20th and 21st century. I swear to fulfill to the best of my ability and judgment this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps I walk, and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures which are required, avoiding those twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there is art to medicine as well as science, that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say I know not, nor will I fail to call my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient's recovery. I'll respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me, that the world may know. Most especially, I must tread with care in matters of life and death. Above all, I must not play at God, rather. I'll remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being, whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems if I am to care adequately for the sick. I'll prevent disease whenever I can, for the prevention is preferable to cure. I'll remember that I remain a member of society with special obligations to all my fellow human beings, those sound of mind and body as well as the infirm. If I do not violate this oath, I may enjoy life and art, respected while I live and remembered with affection thereafter. May I always act so as to preserve the finest traditions of my calling, and may I long experience the joy of healing those who seek my help. If you cannot see the difference, to you who are listening, there's something ridiculously wrong with you. Back to the original note, castrations should be carried out by the government to avoid further dilemmas. Keep up the good work. Give us the link to that 8-bit song that's in your outros now. I'd like to slam that over a video of me shooting cops in Payday 2 or something. It comes from a Japanese Sega Genesis game about female wrestling that I had no idea existed until the World of Long Plays uploaded it. I forget what the name of the game is called, but that's where it comes from. Go figure, right? Hello, CF. I've listened to your show for a very long time, not 2014, but probably started around episode 50. And actually have helped a lot of people I know down the right path using your teachings. Well, they're not mine, they're God's. So, alright, they're my presentations, but they're not my teachings. It's not completely original here, nothing is. I've run into a moral dilemma though. I have an abnormally high IQ, it's been tested around 155 by doctors and shrinks, actual doctors and shrinks. And I think it's because of this that I seem to have no religious impulse. You spoke about this in episode 88 when talking about Star Wars cultists. I understand the value of religion as both a moral code and a means of population control and wholeheartedly support Christianity, but it becomes incredibly difficult for me to adhere to the teachings of the Bible when I can't help but endlessly rationalize about our means of creation God, whether our universe is real, etc., etc. My question to you is, will I gain faith by just faking it? Even if I don't or can't honestly believe the religious meaning behind Holy Scripture, will I find God as a result of devout behavior? Thanks for your help. Look, obedience comes first. And then it'll all make sense, the existence of God, why God does what he does, Christ's miracles. It'll happen if you remain obedient. If you remain obedient, make connections with the world as viewed through the law, it'll all start to make sense. That's how it happened for me. The obedience came first, the belief came second. Replies here. I'm not as well worded as most of the people here, but I'll give it a shot. I'm not sure if this is the right way to approach it, though, so take from it what you will. A big part of it for me was realizing that not everything has to be viewed from a scientific point of view, or not everything has to be exact. It may sound a bit weird, but the best way to explain it is to quote from 1984, "Sanity is not statistical." And don't always think of how things work, think of how things are, such as God. A way to help would be recognizing the beauty of the world, not through the eyes of nature, but the eyes of God. I read the book A Walk Across America by Peter Jenkins, which really showed me the lesser-known pockets of respectable people speckled across, well, America. I don't know if that made much sense, but it did work for me. But I can't say anything about trying to fake it. But I would say to keep an open mind about God, not quite believing it yet, but definitely not disbelieving. I don't remember an exact point of time when I started to really believe, because it happened subtly over time. Same here. You do have to do your part, though, by cutting away sinful things and seeing where it gets you. Sorry if I didn't quite answer your question. I was only looking at it, my experience, because it reminded me of myself. God bless. Second reply. There's an emotional component to belief, not just the intellectual. They're not, in fact, adversarial, but complementary because belief and truth are intertwined, not separated and analyzed. It is not a statistic, abstract concept, but a dynamic process of you living life beyond books, you taking in what Scripture records from holy men who had their own struggles, and a holistic and integral approach, not an analytical and reductive one. I don't know how emotionally intelligent you are, but as CF notes, the best measurement of it is how you relate to others. And then you can see that belief in God is not a personal matter, as many secularists like to point out. It is essential not only to one person, but to all people who belong to a nation. With a nation, you belong to a greater whole, and you eventually belong to God. Without God or a people, you are by yourself. Believing that you can only depend on yourself to the point where you believe in only yourself, exclusionary to any God, you are atomized and alienated. According to the book of Genesis, it is not good for man to be alone. Great insight, great responses, but I like to hone in on beauty. Taking in beauty. Not viewed through nature, but viewed through God. I think beauty is just something that brings you closer to God. You see a sunset going behind the mountains on a partly cloudy day, and how that sun positioned in the sky in such a way that it paints the sky all sorts of oranges and pinks and purples. And these are colors that have such depth that no painter could ever reproduce them. Just one kind of beauty. And if you're blind to that, if you just look at the sun and see the sky and just the colors as individual mechanical parts, as just atomized parts, well, then you're blind to it, and I'm sorry for that. Not saying that you are, but it's just an example. What's your Club Penguin username? Somebody thinks it's Volkish Hispanic 1488, but that's not true. LCF, I just started attending a small church in my community. They're about a group of 40, 50 people and are wonderful and God-fearing people. Pastor seems to not have the same problems as other Christians who endorse sodomy and is totally unlike certain other religious officials who suck the toes of Muslims. In a recent sermon, he was talking about tough times and how Christians should respond to those who wish us ill and would see our community destroyed. He drew parallels to the time of Christ where many believers were killed. He said that when faced with persecution, we should respond with prayer and that we should meet our enemies resolutely like the Christians back then. I think this type of attitude will lead to the destruction of Christianity as a whole. I approached him later about this and asked him what he would do if intruders entered his home and wanted to kill his children, and he responded that he would defend them from personal harm, and that learning to not respond to religious persecution with violence is essential to cultivating a relationship with God. Is he full of shit? What are your thoughts on self-defense and defense of your community? Well, what if it's supposed to happen? A lot of people like to whine about refugees and brown people flooding white nations because, that's what they do that's what people do if you have a bunch of kids. If you still have some sort of zest for life. Now look at the state of the people they are invading, or they're accused of invading. We'll just call it an invasion for short. Look at the state of the people they're invading. Look at the British Isles. 1 in 14 people are molestation victims. That's what the preliminary reports say, so we'll go with it. Could change. I could change my mind about that with new details that come out, but that's what it is. These are people that already treat their own terribly. So really, in that case, somebody exercising self-defense on the other, it's a net zero. It's a net negative, really. But you do see examples of self-defense in the Bible. Take Genesis 19, one I like to talk about a lot, when the roving gangs of sodomites going door to door looking for rape victims get to Lot's house, and the angels they're trying to rape, the angels strike the men with blindness. I would say that's an act of self-defense. There's a biblical precedent for it. There's a time and place to defend yourself in the most extreme of ways, and it takes wisdom to figure out where that place is and what that time is. From the big black cock British Broadcasting Corporation, Brian Jackson, my father injected me with HIV. Hi, CF, not really much of a question, but I thought this would be an interesting article to read. Oh no. When Brian Jackson's father infected his son's infant body with a syringe full of HIV blood, he'd hope he'd never see him grow up. Nobody ever imagined that 24 years later he'd be facing his strapping young son in court to hear about the devastating impact of his crime. Oh, no. Do I need any more proof that white people, they despise the light of God so much that they'll kill their own children to extinguish it, or attempt to kill their own children? I mean, that's another sacrament of our of white secular society, abortion, which is really no different than what this guy tried to do. What more can I say? If this were early on in the show, I would have read the whole thing, but I have other people to get to. What else can I say? Cursed. Everybody is cursed. Hello, rare cleanliness, being half Pinoy and half burger. I guess I can speak on behalf of all Filipinos in the world and say this. We're glad that we have finally have someone to look up to that isn't Manny Pacquiao or Tito Dick. But on a more serious note, I have family in the Philippines, and we exchange phone calls every once in a while. Specifically to my brother, since he's the only English speaker in the house. They live in a seedier part of Manila, which is right in the heart of Duterte's side. He spoke of a neighbor being arrested for possession of marijuana and an entire speech of his home due to suspicion of contraband, which, as expected, was under false suspicion. Other than that, things have quieted down in the area, and a few troublemakers have vanished, making things feel a bit safer. You know, this is a much better way of doing it than rehabilitation. You know that rehab only has like a 5% chance of success? Like 95% of people relapse after rehab. I remember reading a statistic like that. It's insane, and we think rehabilitation is a way to get drug crime down. No, you're just hiding it. You're hiding it by decriminalizing it. Junkies become a state-protected class. That's what it does. If you want to get rid of it, do what they're doing here in Indonesia and the Philippines. They understand. They get it. A junkie is a junkie is a junkie. For every one junkie that gets himself straight, there are tens of thousands that never do. That don't even have a mind to do it. That don't think to themselves, maybe I should stop this. At first, he was worried about Duterte's explosive attitude, but came to appreciate the results of it. Meth has almost been completely removed from the streets. Fantastic! Why don't we follow suit? Oh, right. My human rights! My human rights! Normally, people would be a little on edge when there is a larger police presence in your area, but he seems not to be bothered by it much. Well, if you're doing nothing wrong, what do you have to worry about? I personally would be kind of worried if people all around me were leaving in cuffs or being gunned down on a daily basis, but such is life in the land of Lumpia. Now, speaking on behalf of all Native Americans, I'm 164th. We need to crack down on the night train and Thunderbird crisis. I also think you need to cut down on the gas huffing thing, too. Thanks for the report. Fantastic. I'm not reading this. This is some German jihadi song that I found on the internet. Translate it into this roughly. We will go from country to country. Yeah, I'm not going to read the original translation. We will go from country to country, city to city, until Allah's word is highest. The black flag flies high. There is only one God, and we will show this with our blood and with our death until we fall. You keep bringing this sort of stuff up about how the Durkas are fighting for a higher purpose, but that's the sort of thinking that gets Christians to convert because they cannot abide by Christ's word on not using violence as a means to an end. This happened to one of your viewers who was some white nationalist type who converted from Orthodoxy to Islam. One of my listeners, one of my viewers. Damn, that's hardcore. The white nationalist type and the jihadists have the same disdain for Christianity and Christ because they want to kill. And look for a cult that allows them to. Well, look, Christ has a place in Islam. The Christ is in Islam. He's not spoken of negatively. I think he's spoken of falsely in Islam, but he's not spoken of negatively in the Quran. And look for a cult that allows them to. One finds the paganist nonsense, the other finds the satanic cult of Muhammad. Just because they fight for some higher purpose doesn't make fighting good. I'm sure you realize this already, but just posting my thoughts on it. Well, look, you missed the mark, but you're aiming for it, right? White nationalist, pagan, race idolaters, people who worship their genetic categorization, they're not even on the mark. They're not even trying to be right. That's what I'm saying. They want everybody to pay tribute to them, tell them how awesome they are. They want to bring everybody down to their level, 5 feet 11 inches in the grave like they are. They get pissed at brown people for living life, for doing as you are supposed to do. They want everybody to die just like they're dying. That's what they are. They're not even trying to be right. Hello, CF. I have a problem with a person I used to be quite good friends with, and I think your opinion would help me. We met about 2 or 3 years ago, and she was a casual girl, had crushes on a couple boys, listened to edgy music, just typical angsty teen stuff. It all started with yaoi fandom, which later devolved into obsession with gay boys and gigantic penis envy. She says, I want to be a boy and have sex with other boys. Doesn't that sound familiar? She was constantly role-playing as gay anime characters and later pretended to be a real-life sodomite on online chats. Then she got a girlfriend. A monogamous relationship didn't last for long. Mostly because she wanted to make her girlfriend jealous, and she was doing that by ignoring her, treating her like shit, spending way more time with other people. Look at how they show that they need a man, that they want a man to put them in their place by how they treat their beards. I don't know what they call them. Fucking whatever. the people they're bringing down into the grave with them. Especially the guy she was interested in before she started to rot. Spending more time with other people. That person in particular, okay. Because I don't feel like XYZ loves me anymore. In fact, she made her so jealous that her girlfriend started to cheat. And to save their relationship, they opened it. Now it's even more dysfunctional than before. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, it got way, way worse. About 2 months ago, she started watching a couple trans boy YouTube channels. All the 2 months on T, how to come out to your parents, and things like that. Notice how all these what is with these people and their delusional shit? Like, you have homos saying, like, oh, we're the risk takers. We drive the culture forward. They're all copying each other. They're all doing, like, how to be this, how to do that. They're the most boring people on the fucking planet. Nothing they do is cutting edge or risky. And then she came out to us as a trans man, wanting us to use he, him, his pronouns. I feel like it's my fault, too. Back when she was normal, I gave her a male name as a nickname, so it wasn't anything new to use masculine pronouns since we used them before. Yes, it is partly your fault. And now you know how evil it is to do something like that. So you're getting worse and worse every day. I want to help her, but I know she wouldn't listen. Every time I say something not good about sodomites, I hear, it doesn't affect you. Yeah, it doesn't affect me, of course. Only our whole relationship is an absolute shit, but it doesn't affect me, alright? How do I treat her? How could I help her? I also want to thank you. If not for your podcast, I would still lie to myself that everything is fine and this doesn't affect me. God bless. Response. Written by Big Whatever 2. You need to give her an ultimatum. Tell her exactly what she's doing wrong, why it's wrong, and she can either continue to perpetuate her suffering, or she can stop. If she chooses to destroy her own life, you need to cut her off completely. You aren't going to win if she values cummies more than you're concerned, so give it one last serious shot, and if she still refuses to listen, give up on her. Simple as that. Hola, Uncle Filth. Greetings from high school, where I'm going to document some conversations I overheard from freshmen. Most of the stories are about drugs and alcohol. You can definitely spot out the drama kids, but I don't seem to encounter them that often. Keep in mind that these conversations were out in the open in the same room as a teacher. The first girl isn't very interesting because I can't remember much, but I sit next to her and heard that she's taken shots before and is even passed out, waking up with vomit all over her. More evidence that we're dying, we're dead. We think that completely depraved people, the people who are incontinent, are cool. Wow, you got so drunk that you passed out? You woke up in a pool of your own vomit? Whoa, that's so cool. You're such an interesting person. And we do think it's interesting. How many autobiographies by rock stars are there, and we read them. We think it's fascinating. And you know it is, in a morbid kind of way, but it's nothing to base your life off of. It's nothing to point out and say, look how cool that is. Look how neat that is. I want to be like that. However, the second guy has more to his name. He takes drugs, basically, and he gets high regularly from what it sounds like. First of all, we were taking a test in the media center when suddenly there was a dog sniffing down the row of computers. After the fact, he said something along the lines of, thank God I had took this out of my bag, which was a pad of Post-its. He had crushed up Xanax and used the Post-its to blow it in his face. And he even did it to another girl sitting to the other side of him. So, like, he forced her to take Xanax, or did she want some? I mean, either way, it's terrible, but that's not even the best part, though. His parents are split up, and his mom supports his habits of getting high. Anglo parenting, everybody. I give my kid a safe space to do drugs. Why does he keep doing them? Why is he addicted? Why is he begging for change outside of 7-Eleven? It's probably not very interesting, but I found it surprising to say the least, seeing that these people are 14 to 15 years old. Dare to play the race game? Well, what, white people all over are overdosing on heroin in front of their children. It isn't very surprising, but it is interesting. It's very interesting. How can you think that the only problems we have are political? How can you look at the conduct of the average person and think, oh, we're fine, it's just the politics? People get the politics they deserve. People get the governments they deserve. We deserve all the political dysfunction we get because we ourselves are dysfunctional. Functional people don't give their kids safe spaces to do their drugs, to get high on Xanax. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. This is why we focus on common filth. This is the name of the game. Common filth. This is the name of the game. Common filth. Why should I care about what the elites are doing when the average proles are more than happy to emulate that behavior? To enable the elites to make a fortune off of their dysfunction. The elites make fortunes off of prole dysfunction. If we want the elites to stop whatever they're doing, we need to stop ourselves. That's why I say stop white people, because we can't stop ourselves. That's all. That's it. Hey, CF, just a quick thought I had a few moments ago. Myself and my mother were out, and whilst we were driving through the lifeless suburbs, she remarked that less people decorate their houses for Halloween every year. And she was right, and I quickly pondered about why that is. I came to this conclusion. Every day is Halloween. Yeah, such is the case in pagan societies. Yeah. They love playing dress up and pretending to be something that they objectively are not. Everyday people pretend to be something they are not. Hey, I didn't even read that part. Good job. Good job at predicting what I would say. And they never will be. And every day the common person doesn't so much as look their way. A quick example I thought of is this. When I was a young child around 6 or 7, there was a boy in my class that dressed up as a girl for Halloween. Nothing more than a joke. We all laughed at. Life went on. Now, as we all know, your average white woman will take their child playing with a doll for 10 minutes as evidence that they were born in the wrong body. Our trans, they should be loaded up with estrogen ASAP, post about it on Facebook, and have all our brain-dead friends will clap like seals in support. Meanwhile, the child is probably doomed to an early grave via suicide. Anyway, that's my piece. So stay safe and God bless. By the way, why the fuck do so many women wear sweatpants and leggings in public? Yeah, the laziest clothes that exist, that are associated with sweaty exercise, are very feminine and attractive ladies. It's revolting in my opinion. Well, yeah, they're so desperate. Maybe they're so desperate for sexual attention from somebody they find attractive that they'll basically leave nothing to the imagination. The only thing that they're hiding is their skin color, with how form-fitting those things are. But you pointed something out. How often do we hear stories about, my son liked to play with dolls, and now he's trans, on Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, ExoJane, and so on and so on. How many stories do we hear of that? We hear more than we can count, more than we can keep track of. The woman views everything through the consumer lens. This thing is marketed towards primarily girls, and my son is playing with it? Wow, that must mean this artificial consumer product is now defining some kid's gender identity. He was born in the wrong body. And they say this because the kid picks up a consumer product. That is the lens through which we view the world. He likes girl stuff. That must mean he's a girl. Because he touched a plastic consumer marketable. Again, it's the future we chose. Shalom, Padre. Just gotta ask you, Vienna, Austria, or Vienna, Virginia? I need context there. Good day, CF. I'm not sure whether you to visit the Daily Stormer, saw this, thought you might like it. Progress. Sodomite cooks and eats police officer. I talked about this last week. Not from Daily Stormer, who are very entertaining. They're a lot more legit than other people of their ilk. I laughed that it happened in England, of course. God save us. God bless. Keep up the good work. Well, wait. What if this happened, and this is a different story? Because I think I read something about it last week. Oh, geez. Maybe it is the same thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were two different things that happened. Next! Oh, CF, I've got a question and a comment for you. What do you think of Yukio Mishima? I don't know who that is. I wanted to give you an anecdote from myself that explains the doing something ironically thing is real. Is real. Roughly 3 years ago, I began to immerse myself in the Middle East through the guise of the Palestinian ghost activism. I changed my area of personal study from World War II to the Middle East. I'm still studying it to this day. Once I started out actually researching things that were deeper than current, easy-to-access current events, I became the go-to guy for Middle Eastern knowledge. He would joke about me going to Islam or whatever, and I would ironically learn about it and ironically meme about it. Now I've converted and I'm working on being a better person in his Islamic way. Overall, I think this really helped me understand God a lot better and keep me away from all the autistic secularism and the esoteric Trumpist, right? Since its inception. Beware the power of irony, fellow listeners. Thanks, CF, and God bless. Were you the guy that we were talking about earlier? Edit. Saw some high school poof wearing those black volleyball short shorts coming into work. I'm a night custodian at my old high school. I texted my next youngest sibling, and he said that the kid likes to flirt with the other kids at the school, even if they're straight, and makes shit really uncomfortable. Sure is watching my town become more obviously filled with druggies, faggots, and basketball Americans. Oh, no wonder why you converted to Islam. No wonder. Now, it's interesting, like, 4 years ago, like, the edgy right-wing part of the internet, you used to be pretty sympathetic to Islam. And now look at it. Now the current right-wing says, Islam is homophobic. Anti-sodomy is anti-white. Hello, CF. What are your thoughts on interracial dating of people who are Hispanic/mixed? For some backstory, I am Hispanic male in my last year of high school, and this Asian girl just moved here, and she is a cutie pie. But I know that I would disappoint my parents if I even thought of dating her, but whenever I look at her, lust just takes over. What do? Well, lust is a bad foundation for any relationship. You look at her with infatuation. Not anything good. It's not like you see the future in her. It's pure fetishization. It's bad to treat people as objects of your lust. Because if that's all you feel, then that's all it's going to be. You're not going to set her right. You're not going to allow her to set you right. You're not going to build a life together, a healthy life. So let it go. Hello, CF. I don't have anything to ask, but I'd like to share this. Imagine you are aware of Overwatch. Yeah, a little bit. I don't play many recent games, but yeah, I know about it. Blizzard's most recent game and how popular it is. I think it's interesting to share this little thing that happened on 4chan's general for the game. And it says, we did it, finally happened. After getting months of my neg hole paused by random Craigslist daddies, I finally got paused by a toxic load. I'm ready to celebrate by playing Overwatch. Add me for comp or QP. I'm a Lucio main heal slut, and I like playing with people who want to ERP on mic chat bottom only. And they posted a picture along with that with their HIV test, which says positive. HIV screening equals positive. It's funny not say disturbing to think that these kind of people are everywhere, playing games while looking for erotic roleplay, and even worse, seeing that Overwatch's rating is 12+, that they might even have a shot on predating kids. He openly admitted on the screenshot that he sees the disease as a child and compares it to getting pregnant. Disease and death is the sodomite's child. It keeps making more sense. Everything we do seems to be paving the way for the Holy Russian Empire. And I hope it happens. I hope and pray it happens. It needs to happen. And I don't care if a nuclear war gets started to make it possible. Hey, CF, one of my fellow mods over on Public Health Watch found this video, the only subreddit that matters, r/Public Health Watch. Fantastic work you guys do over there. The TLDR of the video is this. Anti-pedophobia action on YouTube is trying to post propaganda that pedophilia is just as much of a human right as homosexuality, and then goes on to list necrophilia and zoophilia as a part of the LGBT flag spectrum. A rare display of honesty from these types. My question to you is, does it bother you knowing you're right all the time? I ask because you are almost at clairvoyant levels of accuracy in predicting where the spiral slide into hell is taking us. Since I started listening to your podcasts, I started seeing this everywhere, and when I point it out in public, friends of mine who are completely ambivalent look at me like I'm insane. I think it's related to a particular kind of perception where you own a car and you start seeing that model everywhere before you even noticed, except the car in this metaphor is kitty diddlers and dog fuckers. Well, all the way back in episode 2, I read you the gay rights charter. So and in the gay rights charter, it says that they want an abolition of age of consent laws. Because gay rights, it means child sexuality liberation. That's the foundation of it. There are no gay rights in their eyes. There are no gay rights. There are no gay rights if there is not intergenerational intimacy, as they like to call it. That is a foundational principle of the LGBT cult. Pedophilia cannot be removed from it. Because child predation is how it perpetuates itself, how their disease perpetuates itself. It cannot be removed. It cannot be separated. Why do you think fuck hate? Let's go back to them. Why do you think they have children in all of their advertisements? You think that is just a mistake? You think that's just a coincidence? You don't, but I'm telling to everybody who might be on the fence about it, it's not. It's a foundation of their cause. You see, I don't think I'm clairvoyant. I'm not predicting anything that's out of the blue. It's not like I'm calling out these black swan events that are happening. I'm looking towards the past, looking at patterns of behavior in these people and bringing them to the light of day. I'm calling it for what it is. I'm bringing out sadly forgotten knowledge. It's not hidden knowledge. All you have to do is read it and document it and make it real. And the biggest mistake the right wing in particular now is making, it's like I saw some comment saying oh, this is the gay empowerment only exists on the right. Bye-bye, right wing. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You're over. Game, set, match. Done. You can't raise soldiers. You can't raise wives and mothers if you have these people acting freely. Acting as they want to act. You can't. If Muslim was pro-homo, they'd be all for it too. They're just using anti-Muslim as a proxy for their homophile impulses. I see all this debauchery engaged in by white people, and I say stop white people. I want them to prove me wrong, but they don't. We're the best at engaging in debauchery and avoiding temporal consequences for it. As we heard a few weeks ago, nature selects against high IQ. It's like, oh look, Europe has less teen pregnancy. Yeah, because they're better at avoiding the consequences of their deleterious actions. Except that they end up turning it on themselves by becoming trannies, by becoming homosexuals, by getting really shitty tattoos with shitty haircuts. They end up taking it out on themselves. I don't know if you saw the tweet. I was at Panda Express. Yeah, I was at Panda Express. I see two white chicks making out in line. And they both have shitty short haircuts. One of them had dyed hair. They're both dressed very similarly. They have those giant plugs in their ears that make the earlobe like an inch in diameter. It's disgusting. It is sick. It is heartbreaking, really, to see these girls and their lives ending before they even begin. And it's by their own accord because they sucked too much dick in high school, and this is where they end up. They think this is a better alternative. When the real alternative is to stop sinning, not to trade one sin for the other and think it's more noble, which is what we do. Time and time again, this is what we do. So it does bother me that I'm right all the time. It does. I want people to prove me wrong, but they don't. And they never will. Hey CF, what do you think of Scientology? It's bizarre how people can suspend their disbelief to become recruited in a religion made up by an obvious criminal pervert. Well, it seems to be a reaction against the secular Judaism that defines Hollywood, doesn't it? So I don't think much of it, really. It's an insane, crazy thing. And do you remember back in the early... was it late 2000s early 2010s when Anonymous was protesting Scientology? Yeah, a lot of good that did. Greetings, CF. Firstly, thank you. You have set me straight on all things esoteric Trump right. I too had got wrapped up in all things regarding Islam versus the West and saw Milo Yiannopoulos and Gavin McInnes, etc., as maybe the key to unlocking popular sentiment against the rise of Islam. But you are right. Suicide, not homicide. They are a threat because we are weak of our own doing, and maybe ISIS is the violent chemo we need. So again, thank you for that. Well, it's the violent chemo we've earned. Islam is an effect, not a cause. Otherwise, and FYI, I'm Gen X, white, Australian, father, French, Irish, mother, Danish immigrant after World War II. Still together. And above all, Catholic. Had a rough time over the last few years. Married young, had 4 children, and when the youngest was very young, the wife first left me, ditched her faith, then after a couple years left the state, and then a few years later it left the country. I got an annulment and by pure luck managed to find someone who would take all of that on, i.e. me and my kids. And 8 years later, we are still together. She isn't Catholic, but I believe God has blessed our union. Not ideal in every sense, though for so long I was just trying to survive and pick up the pieces and keep me and my children sane and alive. My children continue to suffer. She comes back every now and then, and each time she leaves to go back, it kills. Go back overseas, it kills them all over, which is the hardest part. Not to take away from the divorce either, which still hurts them as much. Anyway, the point is, and so you get to know my perspective, is that we all have our cross to bear, and it's ugly. You don't get the cross you want. You get the last thing you would ever want, and just work with it and trust God. Mine is to watch my children suffer. While we are not out of the woods yet, I find myself thanking God for all He has done and remembering how fortunate I am despite it all. It has been unimaginably difficult, not so much for me, but for my children in so many ways that it is hard to describe. But we have kept the faith. Don't worry, I have had my moments. And have been and are being rewarded, not with riches or happiness in the usual sense, but with peace. It's weird, but there you have it. The joys in the struggle for God. Anyway, that's me. So a couple questions I'd be interested to get your thoughts on. 1. Catholic. Hear you on Bergoglio/Faggot Rome. Not arguing with that. What would be interested on your thoughts, read John 6, 52 through 58, and the part where he said, do this in memory for me. For me, if you're not doing that, then it's not what he wants, and so pretty much that is what I am, Catholic. Of course, there's Orthodox, but that is just a historical thing. And I could take the sacraments there too if I had to. The beginning, chapter 52, then Jesus, that's 53. 52, the Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life. I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father hath sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. Well, it wouldn't mean much if he were just like us. If he lived like us. If he sinned like us. This is why this is significant. His flesh and blood, if we don't put our faith in it, well then, if we don't cleanse our sins through his flesh and blood, the blood that he spilled, if we don't cleanse our sins, filter our sins through that, then we have to take it on ourselves, and it's not going to be pretty. This is what people don't understand. What you put out comes back to you. If you do not allow Christ to take all the damage you've caused to yourself, you've caused to God, you've caused to your fellow man, it's all going to come back to you. You will feel it in full. This is why so many people support the legalization of euthanasia. People live their life of sin, and on their deathbed, they're paying for the wages of their sin, and they say, no, I don't want to hurt anymore. I just want a comfy death. That's why. Because they don't use the blood of Jesus to cleanse themselves. And that's it. 2, forgiveness. Understand the unrepentant depravity of the sodomite. Got it. Though about not being able to forgive those who don't repent. What about when Jesus asked his Father to forgive them? They know not what they do. As the nails were being driven through his wrists. Well, they didn't. They were idiot grunts. 105 IQ Ubermensch grunts who had literally no idea what they were doing. The magnitude of what they were doing. That's why Christ said that. They literally had no idea. No one, not the soldiers, not the Sanhedrin, were sorry, and he was asking for them to be forgiven. How do we reconcile that when fighting the sodomite? When do we make the call? The sodomite knows exactly what he's doing wrong. There's documentation. There's documentation of why it is wrong, captured in excruciating detail. There's no excuse for ignorance anymore, as there was excuse for ignorance in Christ's time. That's how you reconcile it. Faith. I think the term is misused. God doesn't ask us to believe in him, he asks us to love him. And yet somehow we've got to the point that it's all about belief, which is based on faith, i.e. an unprovable belief. I'm with you. I think belief has to be the starting point. As you say Satan believes in God, but here's the thing, that belief is entirely rational and provable, and we shouldn't buy into this notion of it being about faith as an unprovable belief. What I think faith is love in action. We can love God, sure, but that doesn't mean anything unless we do something about it, which is what faith is. I can love a woman very much. Of course, I already believe she exists, and by putting that love into action, I am making a leap of faith and marrying her. Confusing faith with how we come to believe in God, which is really a no-brainer once you open your eyes and start to think, makes us obsess about believing and arguing about that instead of doing what we really should be doing, which is loving him. What do you think? I always say obedience. Obedience to God's law is the greatest act of love you could give to God. Obedience has to come first, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. This is why God is real. It all falls into place. Faith is not knowing the particulars of the outcome. Faith is knowing that right will be done. It might not be your vision of right in the moment. It might not be your interpretation of what should be done in the moment, but the right thing will be done. It may come in an unexpected manifestation, but the right thing will be done. So, well put. Anyways, apologies for the long post. I hope there's something in there you can use. I used all of it, and thank you for allowing me to do so. And thanks for mentioning Victoria, Australia in the last episode. Believe me, that's not the worst of it. Look up Save Schools. Roz Ward, literally, actually. I mean, really having 11, 12-year-olds play acting, having same-sex dates for crying out loud. Didn't I say a long time ago that mandatory same-sex dating would be a thing in schools? Maybe I am a fucking clairvoyant. I don't know. It's like that was just a hunch I had. Anyway, perhaps for another time. God bless. And God bless you as well. Hope your family's doing well. I recently thought of walking through JFK Park on Thursday, and I was walking down by the creek. I swear, near the end, I saw a man pushing a woman trying to do something to her just a few meters away from me. I was startled by the sight, and I pulled out the metal bar I had on me and yelled, "What the hell is going on here?" I don't think I yelled loud enough, so I yelled again and said, "Hello? Anyone out there?" I think at that time they heard I hadn't moved still because I thought of the possibility of him having a gun. I thought of either going back or confronting them, and I chose to confront them, kind of. I walked carefully and slowly on the path and held my phone in my left hand and typed 911 just in case, but didn't call. When I got closer, I saw them walking back in my direction. When I saw them, I saw the man's face tense, and while the woman's face was just like his, I also sheathed my metal bar in one of the belt holes in my shorts as well and canceled the number and put away the phone. I thought they were just a couple walking around and I just misinterpreted their actions, but something felt wrong. Both were silent with a blank stare in their eyes. I walked by them and didn't even talk to them. I was just rationalizing what I'd just seen. At the end, I explored the other side of the creek by walking across a short wall of some sort and returned back, while still thinking of what happened. As I was walking back home, I could see them walking out in the distance in the parking lot going out. CF, I feel like a coward and I feel like I didn't do much. Did God lead me through circumstance to save the woman, or was it just awkward people walking around in the park? In God's eyes, did I do wrong or did right? Does God hate cowards? Well, God hates cowards, but I don't know what that situation is. Seems like you were nervous. All right, the nervous mind can play tricks on you. So it seems like a really strange situation to me, to be honest with you. And I have no idea what it's all about. I don't. There's no starting point for me. That's all. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. Next week, a week from Tuesday, I upload this on Monday. So a week from Tuesday, I'll be on the Becklov's live stream that's election night. I'll be on there, getting interviewed, doing stuff. It'll be a lot of fun. So please go over to the Becklov's YouTube channel. That's BECHTLOFF, the Becklov, at YouTube, youtube.com/user/the Becklov. Check it out, subscribe. He's got a good thing going over there. I'm going to be over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check out Common Filth Extra. Again, great episode this week. Buy for $1 or more. And if you have not checked out anything I have available on the commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com page, you can buy the discography for 65% off for countless hours of high quality content. I also have stickers. Ignore sodomite orders, still got some of those left. White girls fuck dogs stickers. If none of that interests you, but you have Amazon.com purchases to make, please click on the affiliate link below. That'll take you to Amazon.com's front page. Search for your desired item. Add to your cart, check out, and within the 24 hours of clicking that and doing all of that, I get a percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. Everybody wins, and with Christmas coming up, I'm sure you'll all have a lot of shopping to do. With all that out of the way, this is Common Filth Radio. Best in the world, except no substitutes. Be good to each other. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you later.